Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so now we are diving in to mission-specific updates and progress. So I am the Artemis 2 Lunar Science Lead, as well as the lead science officer for the mission, which now that you've seen my earlier talk, you have some idea of what that entails. And I'm really excited to give you this talk today. We are really moving quickly and aggressively toward this mission, and lunar science is a big part of it. We have been making a lot of progress on the lunar science team side, and I'm really excited to share some of that with you today. It's just been incredibly motivating and inspiring to see how science is integrated here, and we're looking forward to having crew making observations and taking images of the moon. So next chart, please, Kristen. Okay, so just from a high level, what lunar science looks like on this mission. Our 4 crew members will capture images, descriptions via like verbal observations, and annotations during their time approaching, flying by, and back from the moon. They will be using handheld Nikon cameras to capture images. They will also be giving verbal description captured via their crew tablets and also crew to Earth communications. And then there are also a number of Orion vehicle cameras that will be capturing data that will be useful for us in the science community as well. And so, of course, don't need to tell this audience this, but this is the first integration of lunar science and geology into this generation of human exploration. So we are learning a lot, we are teaching a lot, and there's just been an incredible amount of progress and support throughout this process. Next chart, please. Okay, if you haven't seen this sort of, I don't know, swoosh chart or whatever we're calling it, that documents sort of the mission profile of Artemis 2, here's your chance. So after launch, they do have a few activities that they are doing in Earth orbit before translunar injection. So there'll be a lot of, for us in the science community, great views of the Earth while they check out the vehicle on, of course, what is a test flight of the Orion spacecraft. Then after their go for translunar injection, they will spend a couple days transiting out to the moon, at which time they will fly, around the moon and then transit back for a couple days before eventual splashdown back on Earth. So if you go to the next chart, you'll see sort of a cartoonized version of where lunar science is represented in this mission overview. I will start with the caveat that all timing is approximate, so this is just sort of a cartoonized version of where our activities will pop up on the mission profile, and where you'll be able to follow along with us during the mission, as there will be, of course, updates going out throughout the mission. So we're hoping for some Earth imaging with either or the crew handheld images or the Orion vehicle cameras. On the way out to the moon, they will have an opportunity to review the plan for once they get there. What areas are they going to be imaging and describing? They'll have an opportunity to review their lunar geography. Now's a great time for us in the lunar science community to brush up on our geography as well. We're going to be hearing crew members giving descriptions of these features and seeing their beautiful images during and after the mission. So if you needed a little push to go and refresh yourselves on lunar features, here it is. We are hoping that on their way to and immediately after the lunar pass, they'll get some, opportunistic images as possible of the moon. But then, of course, there is a lunar pass where they will be, making their closest approach to the moon. We, of course, have a lot of excitement and activities planned for them during that time. So during that time is where we expect them to be, really busy at the windows, taking images, giving descriptions based on their science training, which I'll talk about later, and making annotations about what they see. We will also have the opportunity to, following the lunar pass, get a debrief with the crew in flight on what they experienced to capture, those really critical crew observations, which is a critical component of our science data set. What did you see with your human eyes? And so we'll have an opportunity to do that, and we look forward to sharing that with the community. Next chart, please. Okay, I presented this exact chart at League, but in case you missed that, these are the SMD approved lunar science objectives for Artemis 2. You'll see that there are, I forgot to fix the typo, 10 lunar science objectives and 4 exploration capability objectives that will set us up for future missions. So you can see, I will not read through them all, but you can see our 10, not 9, 10 lunar science objectives in sort of priority order with the priority metrics sort of documented across the bottom. And you also see on the right some things that we really need to be able to do to set ourselves up for Artemis 3 and beyond. So things like, executing crew, doing what I just said, taking images, making observations of the moon, exercising that science flight control team structure that I briefed a couple talks ago, understanding data capture and data archiving. So as you can imagine, we have a lot to do. And what I'll talk about next is kind of where we are in planning for that mission operations. Next chart, please. Okay, so I did want to highlight the work of an amazing team that we work with for Artemis 2 Lunar Science. This is the Crew Lunar Observations Team. They are based out of the Astromaterials Group at the Johnson Space Center. I encourage you, if you're interested in more details on this slide or just to talk to them in general, I reference their LPSC abstract there, which has their contact info. Among their many skills, they are helping to develop a couple really critical files that we'll be using for Artemis 2. One is a lunar geography review. Of course, you don't have to look too far to understand why the crew understanding of lunar geography is important for our science objectives. There are other utilization objectives too, for which understanding major lunar terrain is important. And it also will have resources on how to give good descriptions, which of course they'll be trained about before the mission, but their sort of description cue card will be available to them on this file. We'll also have a targeting plan. This is a trajectory-specific lunar imaging and observation plan. So shown here is just a template, with no actual targets mapped onto it, just to give you a sense of like the type of product that the crew will be seeing. But our lunar science team will be working with the extra amazing crew lunar observations team to generate these files that the crew will have time to review in flight, and that will provide the basis of their activities around the moon. Next chart, please. Okay, Cindy Evans will be giving a much better than this slide briefing on astronaut training, but here I just wanted to highlight some touch points that the Artemis 2 crew has had for lunar science training. So we provided them with some classroom training that we call Lunar Fundamentals. It is what it sounds like, in May of 2023. We do have more classroom training approaching. In June, we have a couple different touch points with them where we will train them in our science objectives and science operations. We'll also have some training a little bit closer to launch to refresh them on all of those things. We had 3 crew members out at the Comastoston Impact Crater in September of 2023, and then we had all 4 prime and 2 backup crew in the Icelandic Highlands last summer. And I will say that we will have lunar science content integrated into the Artemis 2 mission simulations here coming this summer. And see Cindy Evans' talk later today, and she is far more equipped to answer crew training questions than I am. Next chart, please. Okay, to give you a sense of who, what disciplines make up our lunar science team, I am your lunar science lead. Noah is the deputy lunar science lead. I already mentioned that your science officers for this mission will be myself, Angela, and Trevor. And then we have a really wonderful and productive lunar science team that we're working with for this mission, including science subject matter experts in lunar science and geology, science support personnel. We have an amazing visualization team that I think you can imagine all of the amazing things we need visualizations for. We have a data and software team to help us think about data flow during the mission, but also data archiving after the mission. We have our crew lunar observations team that I mentioned that's based at JSC. Also based at JSC in Astromaterials is the image analysis group. They support many different mission objectives, but we work with them, of course, on the lunar science component of that. And we, of course, also have our amazing headquarters representatives, which which is amazing, not just for their lunar science expertise, but also to make sure that we are, good stewards of Artemis science and we are building for the future appropriately. So just a couple fun pictures here. We did have our first sort of team a series of mini sim events at Goddard in early April. We are having our next week-long sim in early June in the actual science evaluation room that we'll use for the mission. So a lot of progress being made. Again, we're pressing toward a launch no later than April of next year. Next chart, please. Okay, I showed these pictures before, but in case you missed my last talk, for Artemis 2, the lunar science operation structure will look like this. The science officers, again, myself, Trevor, and Angela, will be in the Mission Control Center front room. We will be supported by the wonderful and amazing scientists and the rest of the team from the SUR and the SMORE. And in addition to our science objectives, as I mentioned, a key objective of our team is to test the operational flow, between these three entities, and make sure that when we add the complexity of the surface phase in Artemis 3, we have a structure that will hold up to that. Next chart, please. Okay, my last chart is just to hopefully inspire you as I have been inspired. Lunar science will be a part of humanity's return to the moon. Artemis 2 will enable crewed observations and images, as well as amazing images from the Orion vehicle cameras of the moon. We will be doing lunar science on this mission. We will also be demonstrating exploration capability so that, again, when we add in HLS and EVA on Artemis 3, we know we have a structure and the flight control structure and infrastructure to support that. Artemis 2 will also represent the first integration of our new Artemis flight controller position, the science officer, as well as our science backroom of the future for Moon to Mars. So this is the science evaluation room that will have lunar scientists and geologists in it as soon as Artemis 2, as well as our new support facility, the Science Mission Operations Room. So I can't say enough about the entire lunar science team I work with. I'm sure you'll be hearing from them soon about the specific science objectives that we are working on for the mission. But for now, know that lunar science is well integrated across the Artemis 2 mission, and we cannot wait to bring these images, descriptions, and science advancements to you, the community, both in the prep for and during the execution of and archiving of data after this mission to the moon. Thanks, everybody.